So I'm going to get started and hopefully the technology will work well. Um, we're going to get sort of grounded on what the next 8 weeks are going to be about. Quite a few of the travel advisors who I have spoken with have been in triage mode for 3 or 4 weeks now because different countries and different issues have been happening. So some of you have already been knee deep in this. Depending upon the nature of your business, the type of travel you book, you may just be coming into the deepest part of this. So we'll just kind of walk you through how we put the next 8 weeks together. We kept it very loose so that we can adapt because Lord knows every minute something new comes up and it changes the landscape. This today is going to be mostly about organizing how you're taking care of your clients, how those clients who are um, in your booking systems, how are you prioritizing them based on where they are in their travel? We're going to talk a little bit about homework. And again, that's where I'm going to need feedback from you guys. So if you guys think that, coming up with a worksheet that you guys can start filling out is the best way to do this, we'll do that. One of the big issues that you're going to find, and I'm not sure how everybody's getting their information, is when things do change, what are you using as a communication tool to get that information into your, if you host an agency and you've got a couple of ICs, if it's just you, how are you ingesting that information and then actioning it? So one of the pieces of homework is, I'm going to start sending out to you guys, what are you using for tools? Are you using Google Alerts? Are you just using your email inbox and subscribing to as many supplier email updates as you can? There is no consistent resource. I got to tell you, I'm on, Travel Weekly's website. I'm on Travel Market Report's website. And this stuff is coming at us fast and furious, and the reporters aren't always getting it precisely accurate, or the way that they transpose stuff doesn't make me feel solid about what they've said about the updates. So I get it, but what are you doing? Because you need that information to action your clients. So this is what the schedule is going to look like. We will always have a call of one kind on a Monday. It'll be up to an hour, and the instruction will get a lot more detailed as we proceed. I just frankly didn't have a lot of time to work on the slides because of what happened last week. And I was down in South Carolina fetching my son, so I lost 2 days driving down there and back. But things are going to settle down for me, and I promise you, in 2 weeks that instruction is going to be very detailed. So be ready. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. On Wednesdays, so what I'm going to do is, depending upon who's going to be involved, what I want you to do is email us at the end of this presentation. And what I can do is add you to this tool that Myrna and I use. It's called Slack. Slack allows us to create discussion threads, and everybody can then see each other's questions. It's kind of like a Facebook thread, but it's a little bit easier to scroll through. And if we organize it around the things that are most important to you, you'll always know that if you click on that particular discussion, it's about triaging, client records. It's about triaging my business finances. You'll always know that. And I'll be on Wednesday nights between 7 and 8 to check in, but I'll always have Slack open. So we'll talk about that. And then we have our Inspiration Fridays, where we try to tune out the craziness in our businesses. This Friday, it's going to be someone who inspires me, Shannon Cunningham, down in the New Orleans area. She is a travel advisor. She's part of the Gifted Travel Network. She is also one of the most deeply spiritual people that I call a pleasure of a friend. And we're going to talk about, how do we take care of ourselves? What are the self-care things that we do to make the hard work easier? And just to let you know, I'm talking to quite a few people. So Carmen Perez, who runs a travel business consulting business, very much like what Myrna and I do, we've invited her on, and she wants to be on with us. She'll be on Wednesday, April the 1st, April Fool's Day. And Myrna, Carmen and I are going to be talking about how do you deal with tough times? What does it take as a business owner to get through it? So that'll be sort of an Inspiration Friday, but a different kind. And then on Friday of that same week, the third, a very dear friend of mine, Linda Marshall, who I worked with at American Express, she is now a certified meditation instructor, and she's really deeply invested in how we can control our feelings, our emotions, keep a positive framework. She has graciously offered to work with us complimentary on Friday the 3rd. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to mix up business with taking care of ourselves. On those Monday accountability calls, I will tape them. We'll do them through Facebook Live so people can participate. And it'll all be archived in this group. And if you can't make it, you can access it. And if there ever is any homework, it would be due, meaning we're asking you to get it done. You don't have to send it to us. And if it's about financials and you definitely don't want to show us that, we don't mind. We just want to make sure you're doing tasks that help you feel more confident about how you're going to get through this craziness. So with that, like I said, we're going to do Facebook Live. We're going to use some other tools like Excel worksheets that you'll see later on. I'm open to doing these checklist forms. And then, please, let's participate in discussions within the group. So this is the plan. This is the next 8 weeks. So the first week is triaging your clients. And again, I have been on the phone every day with at least 3 to 4 travel advisors. They are everything from virtuoso agents, Avoya agents, cruise planner agents, TPI agents, and everybody seems to have different tools on their dashboards, different reporting that they either access or the entity that they're hosted in or that they work through will pull those reports for them. I've heard some people say, oh, Rich, I've got a great coach with so-and-so organization, and they're actually the ones pulling the reports for me because I'm not great at that. But no matter what, you need to be obviously understanding what's going to be happening in the next 45 to 60 days. And then based on what we're hearing, and we're going to talk a little bit about these external trends that we're seeing and hearing. If you're aware, all of the states are going on sort of, some people are calling it lockdown. Some people are calling it, forced home isolation. I don't know what you call it. But we're just starting to get into that mode now where getting out of our homes is really going to be tamped down. Who knows when that ends? But if that ends because we are successful at flattening the curve, if that ends by May the 30th, will people be able to fly to Key West? Will the airlines start to ramp up? You've got to know all of these kinds of things because obviously it's going to go from sort of a state to regional opening to maybe a national America opening to a hemisphere opening. And then hopefully we'll be crossing oceans again in the not too distant future. And what we want to do is we want to be pulling reports that allow you to triage your clients. And we want to think about, are you systematizing your outbound communications? In 2 weeks, we will do triaging your business and your life. So that's where we're going to give you cash flow statements and income statements. And you're going to have to do this if you've never done it before. That's basically what the lesson's going to be. It's going to be, how do you fill this out so that you're starting to see when you're going to start getting income again based on the decisions that you're making right now, the decisions that governments are making. So we're going to go through that. But we're also going to talk a little bit about making sure that you are strong enough. What support systems do you have? Are there other resources like SCORE or the SBA or small business development centers in your area that you can tap into locally, virtually, to get you through this? So we're going to talk about that because, again, we want to take care of our clients right now. That unfortunately is the number one priority because this just got thrown at us and countries have just started closing down and et cetera, et cetera. But we're going to start moving into taking care of you. Then we're going to talk about enhancing your skills, especially your communication skills. So our third section is going to be, okay, if in 4 weeks there's some semblance of order, the airlines have figured out their ticketing, refunding, and cancellation policies. And now that freed you up to rebook that cruise, because now the airline and the cruise somehow are linked up and you can make a decision with your client. And we've had some stability in exactly what the suppliers are doing and what ASTA is doing to get you bridge capital. Okay, so now we're going to start moving into a more optimistic form, which is there are things you could be doing right now in this downtime to enhance your skills. And based on what you've just gone through, we want you to start doing a self-audit and a self-assessment. And you should be thinking about the tools that your host provides you, that your consortia provides you. But also, we want to hear from you. If there's a skill that you want from us, storytelling for your website, storytelling for your Facebook page, tell me and I'll build that in. Myrna is exceptional at teaching people how to create email autoresponders, email sequences for when somebody becomes a client. Is that a skill you're going to need as we move out into people having a desire and the ability to travel? If so, start giving us the ideas of what skill sets do you want to start working on in the remainder of the downtime that we're going to have. And again, I'm guessing it's going to be 12 to 14 weeks. That's what I'm currently guessing based on what I'm hearing from the WHO and some other entities, is we're going to be in a frozen situation for quite a while, 2 to 3 months. And even then, just remind yourself, airline pilots are going to have to be, reinvested into airlines to get them back into the planes if their skills aren't fresh. Hotels are going to have to ramp up their staff and make sure that whatever changes are being brought in by the health department to ensure that this doesn't come back, that they're abiding by that, making those renovations and changes. And so we're going to, try to keep an eye on that. We're already seeing some pretty good signs coming out of Asia. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then finally, preparing for normal. So what are you going to do to be on the front end of the curve as things start to pick up? I worked in corporate America. I know how they staff, and I know that they are going to be looking at how they can jump on any semblance of the economy's getting better and people are going to start pulling out their credit cards and their wallets. Those companies know how to predict that to some degree, and you don't want to be too far behind them. You're going to want to have audited your CRM, looked at who is an ambitious, intrepid traveler, who might be on the front end of that buying curve, and are you going to have a business plan for reaching out to them proactively and pulling them back into your influence so you can start to sell them? So that's kind of what we're going to do over those 8 weeks, one lesson every 2 weeks, an accountability call on the opposing Monday, and as many of these inspirational calls and other partners as we can get, so that you can come back to this page, this Facebook group, and just check in with us on the calendar, and you'll see what we'll be posting. So now that we've talked about the next 8 weeks, let's do a little triage and start organizing yourself. Again, because all of you are probably working under different scenarios. Some of you may be pulling your own reporting. Some of you may be pulling reporting out of something like Client Base because you're heavily based on a GDS or TravelJoy or TESS. The reporting systems are different out there. So we're not going to try to tell you how to go pull those reports. We're just going to walk you through the philosophies. So the triage categories here are very simplistic, and they should be intuitive to everybody here. When you are in an emergency, you've got to focus on those things that are happening right now that demand the most attention. And obviously, those are clients who are still trying to figure out whether or not they're traveling. As of last week, I had travel advisors telling me that people were getting ready to travel 2 days into the week, Tuesday and Wednesday. And because of the different border restrictions that were or were not rumored to be happening, because of the airlines and the hotel resorts, deciding whether or not they were going to cancel, I had some travel advisors telling me they were making decisions 24 to 48 hours before somebody departed. That's your emergency client. Do you have that laid out for the next 6 to 8 weeks? Do you know who those people are? because they are your highest priority. And then you start moving into, okay, so maybe I've got that, 6, 8, 10 weeks, and I consider them my emergency clients because they have got deadlines for deposits. They might still, have the ability to cancel, and you've got those organized. Now you want to start looking at those clients into the summer. If you have not already communicated, by all means, you really should be calming them and just letting them know what you're working on, what's your experience been up till now, what their options are. You've got to be out there. And then, obviously, if you're working on, somebody told me that they signed 4 contracts for destination weddings for 2021. So that is something that they need to be aware of, but it is a non-urgent client. It is someone who is optimistic that we are going to be through this. They want to keep their wedding date, and they are traveling next year. But they still may need some kind of care, but we've triaged them towards the back end. So here is one scenario. It is the one that's getting the most media attention right now. It is from the Imperial College of London, and according to all the press reports, and I actually read the report, which was, not for a person who doesn't have a medical background, and therefore I'm quite baffled other than the charts. But apparently 30 epidemiologists have looked at data coming out of previous viruses in China. And what I can tell you is this is useful for your planning purposes. It's useful. It's not perfect. And it is not what you should be basing your decisions on with any finite, certainty. But do you see what it starts to tell you about what you should be looking for from the media, from the CDC reports, from the WHO reports? What we know is that if we are somewhat successful with social distancing and home quarantines, that we will have less likelihood of overwhelming the medical system in America, but that we're still looking at a peak of cases 2.5 to 3 months from now. And what I have understood by keeping track of what's going on with some of the reports coming out of the different medical bodies is that the fear factor, and Arnie Weissman wrote very interestingly and somewhat eloquently about this in a piece he wrote today, published today, talking to a psychiatrist who talks about fear and how fear may impact travel. What we know is take a look at those peaks. How if late June, we are looking at the newspapers starting to report that the increase in new COVID cases is slowing. If we can reach those peaks even a little bit earlier, what's going to start to happen is that the media is going to be writing more positive stories. And we will probably see positive stories on the front end of that curve from other places in the world, like South Korea and China, that give us an indication of what normalcy looks like. And so what we know is that the Chinese are actually starting to feel more confident about the future. And while they're still wearing masks and they have new policies, like people's temperatures are being taken in front of malls. You cannot enter a mall unless someone does the temperature scan on your forehead. Okay, so life is going to get back to some normal. It's going to be different, might be a little imposing at times, but that's going to start to generate some positive momentum. And there are a couple of online travel agencies in China who have actually said they have just started to see inquiries for travel from domestic Chinese is starting to tick back up again. And we're only in mid-March, late March, and the pandemic was raging starting around late January, well into February. So again, this gives you an ability to maybe reduce some of your fear and start to think about how there are going to be things you should be watching for. You're going to take care of your clients now. You're going to plan for the clients that may be around that June 20 situation, because if they're traveling, then odds are the travel situation is not going to be much different in the United States. We're still going to be, we won't have a lot of airlines flying, and hotels won't be reopening in large numbers, and that'll impact your client's ability to travel, but will start to be on the upside of that curve. So right now, that's what triage looks like, right? We're in the emergency mode, but we'll start to get to priorities sometimes when we cap. And then those clients who are out to the right of the curve, those are our non-urgent clients. Those are the clients who right now we definitely have, some confidence that they may very well be traveling. So how can you get to doing instead of worrying? Well, first of all and we would love to see comments about this. We want to see people emailing Myrna and I and saying, well, this is what my reporting looks like, and it doesn't pull this very easily. And what should I be asking them? Not knowing who's on this call, how long you've been in the business, how comfortable you are with pulling reporting. I'm trying to keep this at a base level. So if I'm speaking below a lot of you, let me know and let us know how we can then take that level of reporting knowledge that you do have. And if you're still struggling with, doing prioritization or creating pivot tables so that it's easy for you to pull things by dates, if you can pull an Excel spreadsheet and it's going to, in the columns, it's going to put, final deposit, departure date. And you're looking to say, well, Rich, how do I filter this? Because it's all over the place. Not every client and each row is in sequential order. And that's causing you some heartache. Let us know. And we can do a quick, call about that. But we want you, go ahead, Myrna.
Yeah. So basically what you want to do is just basically make a list of all your bookings. And if you have client base, it's pretty easy to do that. Yeah. If you don't, it may be a little trickier, but most travel agents have some sort of way of listing our bookings in order of when they're traveling, because that's how we track our commissions, right? So if you even look at a projected commission report, that's going to kind of show you the bookings with their travel dates, and you may be able to use something like that. But the point is don't get bogged down on what the report looks like. The point is you need a list of who's traveling in March, who's traveling in April, who's traveling in May, who's traveling in June, and where are they going, and right, what vendor they're traveling with. And once you have that information, then you can start to make your plan for how you're going to reach out to these people. Like in my travel agency, I had a lot of cancellations when the coronavirus was peaking in Asia. And so I was really busy, and then it kind of slowed down, and then Italy happened and Europe happened. And now all of this. So now there's a lot of people who I thought were going to be okay, who maybe are not. So that's those are my priority people. They're traveling in June. We can hope for the best, but odds are we're going to have to do something with those people. So I'm just basically watching their booking, watching their cruise line. So if I know they're traveling with Tauk, I'm watching every email I get from Tauk to see what their policies are. The tour operators are changing their policies all the time right now. They're trying to figure it out too. So part of your job right now is to really stay on top of who you have, who they're booked with, so that you can watch for those emails that are going to tell you, okay, we're letting people get a credit, or we're letting people do this, or we're offering this kind of relief for people who have to cancel. And so as an advisor, this is your job right now. It's not necessarily to sell travel to new people. It's to figure out how to best help the people that you've already booked. Oddly enough, there's still some people out there who are asking about 2021, like Richard mentioned. And that's great. And I'm definitely trying to help those people because I don't want to lose them, obviously. But again, they're not as urgent as the people who are trying to get home or have a really pending, a really close-in final payment. Because that's really the thing. You want to make sure that your clients don't lose all of their money, right? So if someone, like for example, had a gentleman booked on a Paul Gauguin cruise that actually wasn't until August, but he had a final payment cancellation. He had a cancellation penalty deadline that was at the end of March. So suddenly he became a priority because he had to figure out what his options were. And, unfortunately, that's one that I had to lose because by canceling it, he only lost $200. If I had kept it until later, he would have lost his entire deposit. So in good conscience, I was like, you know what? We can cancel it. If things are better in August, we can rebook you. No big deal. So you're going to have all of those conversations with your people. But yeah, for me, I get most of them via email. It is really hard to find a repository. I know Virtuoso has a page where they're posting them, and a lot of host agencies are creating pages where they're posting them. But you need to check. Basically, you have to call all of them and check, because they may have changed it since the last time you saw it.
And the other thing that people are doing differently is what I'm hearing from people who are getting calls from the clients. Some people are trying to tell those clients who are non-urgent but still calling them, they're getting frustrated with them, and because they have so many emergency clients to take care of and some priority clients, and they're like, why is this person bugging me? Their deadline isn't even for 4 months or whatever. And all I can tell you is that you've always got to be empathizing with the mindset of the individual who decided to choose you as their travel advisor, because their fear, how much that money represents. I just got off the phone with a travel advisor in the middle of the country, and that travel advisor is dealing with a friend who she did not book the air for. It was for a group going out, a high school group going out in June to the UK. There's about $4,000 worth of airline tickets. The client, and again, they booked through the group that's going to the UK, but they know that my friend is a travel advisor, so they were kibitzing about it. And my friend is like, well, there's not a lot I can do. You didn't book with me. I can offer you advice. But anyway, for this person, for 4 people that she bought airline tickets, and she's a single mom, that $4,000 has got her anxiety ridden, especially in an economy where she may not have a job. And so even though that's not happening till June, and my friend doesn't have any advice to offer because the airlines have not made a final decision about the quirky nature of, well, you get a voucher, but 12 months from when you booked, not when you were actually traveling. And that's about a 4-month difference for this poor woman. And if this event is moved to the same month next year, those tickets are worthless to her. She won't be able to use them right now under the current airline policy. So a client calling you may be coming with that kind of mindset. And, it's so hard when we're trying to be effective and efficient right now and get through all the things that we're trying to do that we know have the greatest impact in our business. But that client, getting a call from this person, a call back saying, hey, I'm just going to listen to you for 10 minutes. My friend said to me, I know she likes me as a friend, but now I think she really appreciates me as a travel advisor, because she's not my priority. She can't really make a decision right now, but I at least lent a sympathetic ear. Each one of you are the only people who can decide how important taking that time out is to your business, to your brand, to the way that you want to be perceived. And each client's going to be different. There are some clients, Myrna and I have been talking about some of her clients who are like, nah, right now, that trip in November, I'm not really worried. No, I'm cool. You don't have to worry about communicating with me. We'll check in later on. Everybody fits somewhere on the spectrum in terms of their fear, their personal situation financially. And, it's only you know how to handle that inbound phone call, that inbound email. Okay. So the thing that you can do now when you do have a quiet moment is start thinking about how, in terms of this emergency, you are using the communication tools that are available to you to maybe take some of that off of your shoulders. Not knowing how you use your website or how you use your Facebook page, whether or not you even have a YouTube channel. There may be ways for you, if you're finding yourself repeating the same thing over and over again, that maybe you need to pin an announcement about airline policies at the top of your Facebook page if a good deal of your travelers go there. Or you could do a quick calming YouTube video where you post it, say, hey guys, it's March the 23rd, it's 7 p.m. tonight. Just wanted to let you know that I'm staying on top of the airline situation, but right now we don't have a final decision. For any of you who are booked from here to here, I do know that I'm monitoring, your cancellation policies and when I can get you your refund if they allow it. You can do that, and then your email to those people just tells them to go and look at the video. So you can still do things that can make your communication out, your prioritization, your triage more efficient. And think creatively about those tools. I have not spent a lot of time going around and seeing what some of my travel advisor friends are doing. What I'm hearing is they're mostly one-offs. They're emails, their responses to emails, they're individualized. Try to take that burden off your shoulders. Use some of the mass communication tools that you have at your disposal. Any other guidance, Myrna?
Yeah, so I just did this today. I actually put a pop-up on my website that basically directs them to a blog post that talks about everything we're doing. And it kind of just highlights some of the policies, some of the alerts. If you can do that, if you can put up a page on your website that has all that information, that's a great way to help your clients, have like a place to go. So I know a lot of tour operators and cruise lines are creating like a page where they list, the special policies, et cetera. But as travel advisors, we can do something similar. I did pin whenever I have something that's related to this, I've been pinning it to the top of my business page. Haven't done a video, but that's a great idea too. Just record a video. I did send out an email to all of my clients, not everyone in my list, but the people who've actually ever booked with me, to explain to them what we're doing, what I'm doing, what my host agency's doing, what Virtuoso is doing, and kind of explaining the process, the fact that we are monitoring it. And as their travel date approaches, we're going to reach out to them, kind of giving them the expectation that we are going to get to them. If you're swamped with cancellations, you may want to send out an email that kind of explains your thought process and what you're doing. And maybe a video would even be a fantastic way to do this. Record a quick little video, send it out. And that way people know that you have their back, that maybe they can't get you on the phone right away, but they understand that it's because you're on hold or it's because, some other thing.
And be transparent about that. Let people know that, you are working 12, 14 hours, that you are, haggling with different suppliers and trying to accommodate both, our clients and the supplier policies, and that you're monitoring this, 24/7. Let them know, because this is a great time for you to let people, when people are in an emergency mode and someone does something for them, the chemical reaction in our brains makes us align with that person. For the most part, there are some people you can never make happy. You all know that. But when someone feels, like Myrna just said, comforted that you've got my back and you're filling the vacuum of information, and you may not have everything now, but you're telling me that you're on top of it. And that may relieve some of my bothering you. That may relieve some of my anxiety. And it makes me bond with you. That while my friends are all worried about whether or not Expedia is going to get back to them, my travel advisor did. This is a great chance for you to shine. Okay. So, it really is. I was outside last night taking a walk, and Venus was shining in the western sky last night. And I didn't realize that this time of year, Venus was that low and that bright. And, looking up into the sky, it made me realize, there is a world going on around us that has nothing to do with coronavirus, and it works seamlessly. And Venus shows up every time this year on the horizon, and it looks the way it does every year. And that stability, the concept that's always happening. The sun rose this morning. We've got to imagine a world that's going to be better in the not too distant future. And as long as we can imagine that over the next 12, 16 weeks, whatever this is going to be, we can plan for it. We can try to search for the data. And I'm going to be doing more of that. I will try to post sometime over the next couple of days the chart that Smith Travel Research printed, looking at Chinese domestic bookings and what the lodging situation looks like in China right now, so that you can see this and start to see the trends and maybe give you some confidence that a place like China, where they were the dominant epicenter and they were dealing with a major crisis, you know what, if we can do our job here in America, we may only be a few months behind them, and we can, start to plan for that both financially, and we'll talk about that over the next 2 weeks. What are you doing to fill the capital that you need to get from here till June or July, if the trips that you have booked for that period can actually go out, and as a result you can get that commission. What can you do in that interim period to cut your expenses, trim here, maybe do something different? I've had people who are telling me that they're thinking of starting travel membership clubs. And I'm like, really? In this environment? And a friend of mine said, oh no, there are people, if you could give them a quote unquote discount on an annual travel membership with me as a travel advisor, I know people who would pay me for that. That's an injection of capital. And if you can imagine it and find the ideal client who fits that revenue source, yes, it can happen. Just like Venus can show up in the sky at this time of year, there are people out there who think differently than the rest of this monolithic consumer that we always think about in the travel industry. And those people still spend money in different ways. And we need to think that way if we're going to get through this. So, feel free to email either one of us if you've got things that you need. Hey, Rich, what I could really use is a set of questions to ask my host, because my host is not a large company, but you just talked about some things and I've not seen that yet. Okay, send me an email. Tell me what it is you think you're missing, and I'll work with you on structuring the email to say, hey, this is what I need in order to get through the next 4 months. And gee, I'd like to talk to somebody about what you could do to provide that to me. Communication tools that you might need right now because you're afraid of reaching out to people who are traveling the latter half of the year. Maybe you're afraid about reminding them of what we're going through and then triggering conversations. Email us. We'll give you those kinds of suggestions. There are philosophies around communicating in a crisis that I will tell you, even if it costs you some money, is better than doing nothing. Because when you do nothing, you cede control to the situation, to the crisis, and then you really run a much bigger risk than you're assessing because you're wondering what's in the mindset of that person. But it really fits your ebb and flow. Like Myrna said, first she was dealing with just Asia and cruises that she had in Asia and FITs. And when that went away because the rest of the world wasn't experiencing coronavirus yet, she had a lull. Your business, every person who's on this call, your business is different. Mm-hmm. So therefore, if you're mostly the Caribbean and Mexico, and the Caribbean and Mexico comes back quicker than Western Europe, your communications are going to be different, and they may be different timing. And depending upon what the suppliers in those regions do in terms of promotions, there's a whole set of variables that we can work with. So, email us, let us know what you're thinking. Give me a description of what your business looks like, and we can start you thinking about these things in advance and start to move you along that path towards the next 12 weeks. So with that, we're going to let you guys go. I've been up since 5:30 this morning. I've been working since 6, and I've got to get ready for a 7 o'clock call. Throw comments in the comments section. Like I said, there are email addresses. We're going to be adding to this group. We're going to be promoting this group more. So hopefully the dynamic starts to change over time. We'll be communicating in advance about it more. It's been a little bit tough the last couple of days, setting up a schedule and then getting out in front of it to remind you of when we'll be speaking with you. So that'll be a little bit more rigorous as well. But please stay in touch. Facebook Messenger, email, here in the comments section. I'm going to respond to everything. Myrna's a little busier than I am because she is a travel advisor, and she is dealing with a lot of the same issues that you are, and she's got some other things that she works on. But my time is freed up a little bit, so I'll respond as quickly as I can. And even if we throw together a small group of us on a Tuesday night because you all want to chat about the same thing. That's what I want you to use this for. That's what we want you to use this for, because we're going to get through this together, but only if we reach out to each other and try to leverage each other. So thanks for that. Myrna, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I just want to yeah, again, remind you all that this will pass. And I think the main thing that I would tell you in terms of the response I've had from my clients is that, don't be afraid to just call them to check on them and just ask them how they're doing. Everyone is really stressed out right now, but it's really a great time to kind of bond with your clients because we're all going through the same thing. And I've had a lot of great conversations with clients, not necessarily about travel, just because, I called them about one thing and then we ended up just talking about, what's going on in their life right now. And again, it's kind of a little silver lining, right? It's that it brings us all closer together because we're all experiencing this thing. So,
Yep.
so don't be afraid to call people. And, when you get through the emergencies, really just make sure you stay in communication with each other, with your clients, with us, with whoever is in your life who can help you, because we all need to tackle this together.